Hello and welcome to the Attraction Group podcast Behind the Scare series. And I apologize for I do have hair there, it's not being cut off, but if you're watching on YouTube anyway. So today we have an interview with two people from Sally Dark Rides. Cleet is supposed to be on here, but in the essence of schedules and the days and trying to figure out how our schedules work with two co-hosts that are 900 miles apart, he may join us somewhere in the middle. But in the meantime, I want to introduce to the stage here Drew Hunter from Sally Dark Rides, who is the VP of Creative Design, and also Rich Hill, who is the Chief Creative Officer at Sally Dark Ride as well. Gentlemen, welcome.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
So how are things going through this year? Oh, no, absolutely. Thank you for coming on. Really, it's amazing to be able to have. We've had venues on. We've had people that own the attractions or have designed them from a park standpoint, but we haven't had a legitimate designer on the series yet. We have 12 of them that are going to be posted, and right now I believe as we post, you guys will be number 7, I believe.
Wow, cool.
So, thank you for coming on.
Of course, no problem.
So just to get a little bit of a background on you guys, and I don't care who answers first, but give us a little bit of a professional background of where you started and where you started getting into design or liking the dark ride attraction design and how you landed at Sally Dark Rides.
Rich, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. So I've got a long history of haunt. I'm first a fan. Of course, the movies and haunted walkthroughs. Just a big fan. Background. I had a chance to work with Tom Savini when I was in school at the Art Institute of Pittsburgh. Of course, Pittsburgh being, where tons of zombie films have been filmed. They have a long legacy of all those haunted, characters and attractions. So, had a chance to work with Tom Savini while I was in school there on one of his haunted walkthroughs. He throws a pretty big one every year, and at least I think he used to. That really ignited my fire for haunted walkthroughs and being able to design, populate, act in them. Then I really started in theme parks after getting out of school. My big kind of push was to work in film, doing animatronics. But as you can imagine, during the late 90s, everything was going to CG. Animatronics were kind of falling out of favor. So theme parks were where it was at as far as animatronics go. So moved down to Orlando, worked with Disney, had worked with Kinetics, a company that did a lot of rainforest cafes and things like that. Then opened my own studio. During the course of that, I had the chance to work with Sally Dark Rides. Honestly, didn't know a whole lot about them, but came up here to Jacksonville and took a look and fell in love with the place. They offered me a full-time position. So I closed down my shop in Orlando and moved up here to Jacksonville. And 26 years later, I'm still here. They've still got me. Yeah. As far as haunted projects go, we've had a number of them. There was one that they started before I got here that was pretty incredible. It was actually one of the things that drew me to Sally, Zombie Paradise. It was a pretty cool attraction, opened in 1992 at the Tokyo Dome in Japan. It was a haunted attraction, had a lot of really classic gags, some pretty amazing characters. Had the chance to work, alongside Drew. Drew is my mentor. He absolutely is Mr. Haunt. I'm sure his laundry list of projects goes way beyond mine, but we developed a ride called Scream in the Dark for Ripley's in Pattaya, Thailand, together, and have worked on a number of attractions since. But it's my fandom, I think, exceeds my professional acumen, but definitely had some projects that we can get into, of course.
Before we get to Drew, you mentioned it right out of the gate. You like the horror movies and haunted movies. Favorite one or franchise?
Probably The Thing. Yeah, with Evil Dead 2 was a close second. Yep.
All right. Well, Drew, how about you?
Okay, well, I think it all started. It all began one dark night when my mom took me to see Walt Disney's Fantasia back in about 1958. And I was around 7.5 years old, way back then. And I saw A Night on Bald Mountain, the sequence toward the end of the film, that basically changed my life. The whole movie did too. It instilled my love of color, animation, storytelling, creativity, all of that. But A Night on Bald Mountain, I wanted to grow up and do that, you know, and I wanted to be up there on the mountain and controlling all those ghosts, right? So,
Nice.
love that. Grew up, did haunts, private haunts for various people in my grandmother's attic, where I charged my parents and my grandparents a dime to go in it, in their own attic. And then in 1975, did a lot of theater, a lot of art. In 1975, did my very first professional haunt at the Louisiana State Fair called Dr. Blood's Exposition of Terror.
Oh, wow.
Then that went on for many, many, many years. Finally moved over to Dallas, worked with Six Flags over Texas and a number of the Six Flags parks, designing their fright fests. Eventually had my own company in the 90s, and then decided I wanted to expand beyond that. Got a job at Sally as my first title here was Design Director of Haunted Attractions. How cool is that?
Oh,
Nice.
That's how I started here. That was in 1997, and have been here ever
Okay.
since. And has been a fabulous place to be. Have had wonderful opportunities. Oh, worked in a wax museum too. Designed several wax museums and Ripley's. So, it all kind of ties into the sort of same thing: the bizarre, the strange, the unusual, and the weird.
That's awesome. It's not
Yeah,
weird.
It's true.
So how about you? Favorite horror movie or franchise?
Oh gosh, one of my favorites, and I'm not sure you'd necessarily call it a horror film, but a scare film to me is one of two: either The Haunting, the original movie, The Haunting, 1963, or 1961's The Innocents, based on Henry James' Turn of the Screw. Both very classic, black and white. No blood in either one. There's no hockey masks. There's nothing like that. Just good, creepy, fright films, and that leave a lot to your imagination. A lot of unanswered questions too, and I really like that.
I gotta say, that stupid hockey mask still bothers me. I'm in my 50s, and I've seen all the Friday the 13th movies, even the ones that are kind of stupid. I'm sorry, the one's called Jason Takes Manhattan.
Yeah, right.
Really, it's in the name.
Well, there you go.
But still, it doesn't matter. I mean, Jason X, I think, whatever came out in 2000, kind of a dumb premise. He's on a spaceship in attacking people, astronauts. But even so, it doesn't matter. That stupid hockey mask, I can't. That's like a mental block. I'm still looking in the basement around the back of the stairwell to make sure it's not there.
Well, there's a place for all those, and all those type films. And I like those too. There's a lot of those stuff. That stuff is really fun. There's so many good films out there, though, that are some of the many undiscovered. That if you do a little bit of research and find some really bizarre, off the wall things from the 60s and 70s and so on. Oh my goodness, the 70s was full of that kind of stuff. Amazing.
Talking about the hockey mask, I definitely can't look at a William Shatner mask without getting chills, right?
Right.
Well, you have to turn it inside out, right?
That's right.
So if you can give us a brief history of Sally Dark Rides and where they started, and was it always in dark themed attractions, or is it just kind of out evolved?
Rich, you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. So we started 48 years ago. The three Johns, John Wood, John Fox, and John Rob Holland, started this business, and really started in a dirt floor kind of, garage. 48 years later, we're still here in Jacksonville, still creating attractions. It really started as an animatronic business, building, animated figures, characters for, really like store displays, and then kind of graduating into animated bands, a la Chuck E. Cheese, Showbiz Pizza type of thing. Okay. And then, they determined a lot of animated characters were being built for rides and attractions, and they thought, why don't we jump into this realm? Why don't we build our own attractions? Then we can populate them with the characters that we like and that we want to build. And so that's really the evolution of Sally Dark Rides, right? So over 70 dark rides later, more than 3,000 animatronic characters, still in business, still kicking it, and thinking that we do a pretty good job here.
Yep.
Sally Dark Rides has a long history of haunt and ghost themes, attractions, and rides. What is the difference when you approach designing an attraction, be it on the scary side or the family friendly side? Do you have different teams that do that, or what's the? I guess how do you flush out from the attraction that wants it to what you're designing? And have you ever had to go back and like, ooh, too spooky, we need to make it a little more family friendly?
Most of the clients that we deal with, really, they from our history, they don't want gore, they don't want extreme violence. They want more family, fun, creepy stuff, scary stuff, but nothing brutal, really. That's at least from the ones that I've worked on. One of the rides we did way back in '98, I believe, that we've done many copies of, and which Scooby-Doo sprang from, was called Ghost Blasters, which the client specifically wanted something creepy but fun for the whole family. So we did this cartoonish style ride, blacklight ride, our very first blacklight ride, and they specifically wanted that. Now, we did a show a couple of years ago called the Whispering Pines Haunted Hotel for Funtown Splashtown, in which they wanted it definitely family friendly, but scarier, with some good surprises, some good shocks, and so on. And of course, it's so different than doing a walkthrough attraction. With a walkthrough attraction, there's the immediacy of guests, of performers popping out, scaring you. But the dark ride's a little harder to do that. So you have to use other techniques. So it just depends on what the client wants. But as far as just brutal, get down with it, scary, horror, not too many of those you're going to find that we have come across yet. Is that agree with that, Rich?
Absolutely. Yeah. And talking about the spooky versus, really scary. We have developed some concepts though, probably 10 years ago, we developed a Walking Dead attraction, the Walking Dead Survival. And it was a pretty intense attraction. The blasting zombies and trying to escape. It's collecting survival supplies. It's a really accurate to the show, but totally scary attraction. And we pitched it to so many parks that had the IP, parks that wanted to get the IP. This is back when Walking Dead was really popular, and it never really got off the ground. And I think that's why. It's you start to limit your demographic when you go super scary and gory. And a lot of our parks, it might make it through the first or second round, but once you get to that third round where they've got to write the check, you start to look at that demographic, that narrow demographic, and it scares them away, literally.
So you guys are talking about The Walking Dead and Scooby-Doo specifically. Can you speak to the difference that it comes to from the creative process when you're designing with a known haunted IP like a Walking Dead to one extreme and then Scooby-Doo on the other, to versus a completely original haunted concept?
Well, I can address a little bit of that, because with the Ghost Blasters we did, which was a total in-house product that we designed, total Sally, made it up from word go. Then, when at the time Paramount Parks had the property, the Scooby property, and were able to use that, they saw our Ghost Blaster, said, "Wow, if we put Scooby in this show, and we leave a lot of the rest of the stuff just like it is, we put Scooby in here and change the ending a little bit to make it more of a Scooby-Doo mystery, then we'll have a whole new set of dark rides." That's exactly what happened. Now, what the result of that is that once we engaged the Scooby-Doo franchise, everything had to go through their approval. Everything, not just the Scooby characters, but every tree, everything in it, Every blade of grass had to be drawn in a certain way to look
Wow.
like. Fortunately, a lot of the stuff we had, they approved. They liked it. That's why they wanted to use this Ghostbusters as a basis. But when it came to adding a new clump of grass over here, that had to be approved. So interesting, and it did. It all worked out beautifully. But it's just a thing you have to go through.
Yeah.
Do you have any characters that are specifically Sally Ride, Dark Ride characters that may find themselves in this park over here, or this park over here, or this attraction?
Rich?
Maybe Bucifer.
Okay.
Or he's one of my favorite characters. You know, that's
You mean in the Scooby-Doo characters and the Scooby-Doo ride versus Ghostbusters?
The Booster was in Ghostbusters, wasn't it?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Lucifer's in Ghostbusters. He's not in, as far as I know, he's not in any Scooby-Doo ride.
His Easter egg might be. So let me take ask you to take a walk with me on this. Assume I'm coming up to your booth at IAPA, and I come to you and I say, "Hey, I don't know what I want. I want a new haunted attraction for Dave's Zombie Castle." Take me through the process of what the creative process is from the initial, excuse me, from the initial conversation to the first guest that experience it. How long does it take generally? And let's assume it's a brand new concept. It's not an IP that you have, or that I would have.
Sure. I mean, you know, first we would dredge as much information as we can out of you, right? Who's Dave, right? Why are zombies in the castle, right? I mean, we have our location, we have our characters. You know, what does Dave's portion of this? You know, is this the hero? Is he a villain? Is he the master zombie? Right? Trying to determine those things. Of course, budget is always a consideration, but can come in later.
Right.
You know, understanding what kind of space you have, understanding, you know, is the building existing? Is it going to be something that's torn down and we build a brand new building? Those are all really important for us to understand, you know, right out of the gate.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really asking a lot of questions at first. Once we kind of feel like we have as, you know, many of those questions answered as we can, then we like to develop a few ideas, right? So we start with the elevator pitch, just a little paragraph for each story idea that we have, and we could come up with as many as a dozen of those. Then we hand those back to you, and we say, okay, now pick 3, and we'll take those 3 and we'll develop those into a scene-by-scene narrative with a little bit of art. And you know, kind of flesh it out a little bit more. We're not going all in. We're not doing the 3D models and things like that, but something that you can have a good idea, you and your team can pick from and choose one of those stories that then we develop into a full concept deck with, you know, amazing color art, key art. We've got 3D models and beautiful, you know, architectural CAD plans and all that fun stuff, along with the most important thing, the pricing exercise. And then we can kind of arrive at a budget. Here's the story, here's the ride, here's the budget, and we can go to contract. That goes into the production contract, right? Yeah. That's basically our story, you know, our pipeline for developing an attraction.
So let's say I'm coming to you from I have no affiliation with Hurston whatsoever, but let's say I'm coming to you from Hurston. It's obviously going to be a family-friendly attraction, and we have most of our details down to what we want.
Yep.
So 3rd week of November, we had the initial meeting, and by the end of the week, contract is signed. From that point on, how long does it usually take to month-wise to get an attraction open?
You go for that, Drew's?
That's an open question. Obviously, it depends on the complexity of the ride.
Sure.
And what is the status? Where is this ride going? In other words, as Rich mentioned, does a building need to be completely retrofitted? Does a building need to be built? Do you have a building ready to go? The facility is always an issue. And then also making sure it is crystal clear with the client what they're getting, that they understand that what we're doing, and that the whole concept, making sure everybody's on the same page. It's all about communication in that regard. So how long does it take? If you came to us as you just described and such, and let's say you had a building and it was in pretty good shape, and we will come in and you will build all the walls in the building. You'll do all the other plumbing and the other
Sure.
electrical and such. Then we bring in everything else. Bring in a ride system. We'll bring in the characters. We'll bring in the sets. We'll bring in music. We'll bring in the targeting system if it's interactive. All of this stuff, we will bring it all in and install the entire ride for you. Train your people and then leave it with you. So that can take, I would say minimum. What do you think, Rich? Minimum 9 months to a year.
Yeah, we've been telling clients, really lately we've been seeing like a year, 12 months, to one that we're working on currently is at 3.5 years.
Right.
Of course, it's massive and it's a long ride with tons of stuff, but it's really what, how much stuff do you need to build, and what kind of shape is the facility in? So.
I would also add that, for example, Ghostbusters or Scooby, if you came to us and said, I would like a version of one of those, well, we already have a good basis there. It's basically designed.
Okay.
It's designed. So that cuts down a lot of the time of preparation for the ride. We may need to retrofit our designs, particularly for your location, change some things, who knows what. But basically, it's design. The design process is a huge element of this. Starting from scratch and designing a ride. You're not going to build the ride till you design the ride, and that takes time. So a pretty simple ride that I would say already is basically designed. Yeah, maybe a year and a half. But more complex things, many of which we have been doing lately, years. Can be like a couple of years.
Yeah, and the technology has changed a ton over the last 20 years, even. Whereas back in the 90s, probably the dark ride was a lot of whatever the ride vehicle may have been would have been a cutout popping up or element of surprise with one of those. Then it moved to animatronics that actually move, and if someone speaks, it went from either projection on a blank screen looking like a mouth moving to an actual mouth moving. What are the new technologies now that you're starting to integrate into the attractions?
Ooh, new technology. Geez. Yeah. There's so much stuff. It's really incredible. I mean, it's moving at, lightning pace. There are, when we used to do projection, now we're using LED screens a lot of times. Animatronics are getting so complex in some aspects. We really like our animatronics to be simple, so they're long-lasting, maintenance-friendly, and they perform well. But there are compliant hydraulic animated characters that are so elaborate they can do jumping jacks, right? There are a lot of things that we're developing that we think, maybe it's not new technology, but they're new ideas. There was, I mentioned the Scream in the Dark attraction that we produced for Ripley's. That used some pretty simple technology, but it was really effective and just a great tagline. So the name is Scream in the Dark, right? And so it's an interactive attraction where you ride through scenes, much like you do in any traditional dark ride. You're seeing clowns and scary dogs and all kinds of fun stuff that you're aiming at and blasting because you're typically defending yourself. But in each one of these scenes, we hung a microphone, and there was also, we called it this screamometer, right? And so if you screamed and the screamometer reached a certain height, it would activate bonus targets. And those bonus targets were, higher score and blah, blah, blah. And a series of these as we went through the attraction was pretty fun. The end result was, guests standing out in the queue in the line waiting to come in. They would hear people inside the ride screaming their heads off. And they're like, this ride must be scary, like really scary. So Scream in the Dark, that kind of generated the name of the attraction. And that was some lo-fi technology, but it was something that had never really been, as far as what I can see, and yeah, very effective.
And for dark ride fans, obviously it's a reference to the classical Laugh in the Dark ride, except it's in the dark. Yep. So it was that style of ride, kind of where anything goes. There was no real story to it, no real plot to it. It's just stuff that happens out of the blackness. And man, it was fun to do that. That was a great ride to do.
So guys, one of the last questions that I have is, Are there any attractions that have either launched already, obviously that you can talk about, versus maybe some that haven't opened up yet that you can talk about? I know that there's, depending on the venue, if it hasn't launched yet, you probably can't speak about it. But what are some attractions that people should be looking forward to?
Well, 2025 turns out is going to be the year of the scary dark ride. We're producing a few things. I mean, obviously, all under NDA, all very sensitive, so we can't talk much about them. But one that Drew is currently designing, Phantom Theater, has been announced for Kings Island. Woo-hoo-hoo! Bringing back.
Did you do the original? I don't recall. Did you do the original Phantom Theater? Okay.
No, we did not.
No, and Drew can talk a little bit more about that attraction, but we have another attraction, that one that we've been working on for a long time. Has some of the biggest, baddest monsters you've ever seen. You'll recognize some of them when it's eventually announced and our participation is announced. But look forward to, what we're building in 2025, opening in 2026 is just going to be incredible.
How about some ones that have already opened?
You want to talk a little bit?
Yeah, well, one of them, of course, was a few years ago at Funtown Splashtown up in Maine, was the Whispering Pines Haunted Hotel, which was so much fun to do. Fabulous client to work with. They just wanted a scary hotel dark ride and came up with several different concepts for that. They chose one and said, "Go for it." And it was a wonderful collaboration. We love that. We love working with the park owners and other designers and such, and collaborating to create the best we can possibly create. So that was one that was really fun. There's one that one we mentioned that really wasn't so scary, but it was creepy and weird. And it's one of the ones that's gone down in legacy. It no longer exists, but with the anniversary of Hurricane Katrina coming up here. Well, actually, it just happened last week or so. The anniversary a week or so ago was Jazzland down in New Orleans, which had Jocko's Mardi Gras Madness, which was of course all New Orleans centric, with all kind of Mardi Gras stuff, but also full of skeletons and creepy creatures and loup-garous and all sorts of stuff. And unfortunately, that lasted 5 years until Hurricane Katrina took care of that ride. But that's one of my personal favorites, because not only is New Orleans my favorite place on the planet, but it was a fun ride to do and very effective and a simple ride through shoot 'em up ride, and full of blacklight creatures and other 3D sets here or there. But that was fun.
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, you've got to look for if in the haunted hotel attraction, you've got to look for. I thought this was amazing. Drew put the carpet from The Shining in the pre-show.
I was going to ask if there's any red rum or any specific design in there.
Yeah, and I got to give credit where credit is due. That was actually one of the manager of the park. That was Corey's idea. Yeah, it was Corey's idea. And I was up there just a month or so ago at a special event. And it was so wonderful having all these guests come in and are all standing there, because I had not been to that since the ride opened. So it had been open for a couple of years, and people are going, "Oh, the carpet." That carpet. And there are people running around going, "Rag Rob." That's the only reference to that movie in the ride that I can think of, but it was great.
That's so great. I love it.
It has to be very rewarding to work on a project for 18 months, 12 months, 2 years, whatever it be, or 3 years, like you said before, and then just see the finished product, to be able to ride and experience the first time, and then to see the first line of guests go on to that. What's that like, to be able to see the fruits of the effort come to fruition?
It's amazing. I mean, it's so rewarding to stand on that unload platform where the guests get off of the ride and see their reactions, good or bad, right? You hope good, but it's just so rewarding. It's, instant gratification for all the hard work that the team put in there, right? It really is a huge team effort to put these things together. And, and that's really the payoff is, 1 million guests a year ride these rides, and you get to see that payoff. It's very rewarding.
It really is. And, I go back to my childhood, going on a number of dark rides, including the original Peter Pan, Mr. Toad, Snow White at Disneyland. The first time I went through Disneyland, which was 1958, only 3 years after it opened, was a lifelong memory. I mean, that's one of the things that made me want to do what I do now. And then Pacific Ocean Park, the pier at Santa Monica there, some of the rides out there. These things made lasting impressions on me. So that brings us to the present, and we've met all these young people and children and younger people who have gone on our rides that we have designed, that have grown up, and now they're taking those rides. They're taking their own children to those rides, right? So that is really cool. It's kind of a legacy thing, and it's just nice to know that we can help be a part of putting something out there that's bringing a smile to people's faces and good times. It's very important.
I do have to say that at Kings Island specifically, because they're doing away with the Boo Blasters on Blue Hill theme, which is what you designed, and they're replacing it with the Phantom Theater coming up. And I know over the last couple of years, it's been I'm not going to say a dated attraction. It's just been there for a while, and you can assume the lines aren't as long as what they were a decade ago. However, when it was announced that the last day of operation for it was going to be Labor Day weekend, or I guess Labor Day on Monday, the level of the lines that people were just lining up down the midways to go into it. It went from probably, I'm going to say, a 10 to 15 minute wait all summer to, once they announced it was closing, I might be wrong, but I believe someone said that at one point the wait was 2 hours, which is amazing. Which is kind of a testament to people rode this when they were younger. They want to get their last ride in before changes. And again, it'd probably be they want to get their first rides in next year when it's changed over. But like you said, people get hooked to these things when they're younger, and it becomes a generational thing. You remember this triggers a memory in you. You want to get to your kids and just to share that experience and keep it moving.
Our Sally team loves doing this, and Rich and I have made a great team, but we have a whole building full of fabulous people here that help us create all this stuff, and then joining forces with park owners and other designers is really cool, and that's part of the fun of what we do and part of the payoff.
Absolutely, it's a fun industry to be in.
We're super lucky to be in this industry. Absolutely.
Well, guys, I appreciate you guys coming on. The website is the Sally Dark Ride website. What is it? SallyDarkride.com?
It's SallyDarkRides.com.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah,
perfect.
check it out.
And people are going to come to IAPA. Do you know where your booth is at? Are you having a booth this year?
We are, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I assume you were.
We've been there. I think this is our 36th year, I want to say, something like that. Yeah,
at IAPA?
Okay. Yeah.
I think John Wood said that there's only 1 year we haven't been there. He was not when the company was opened. After the next 2 years later, they did their first IAPA, I believe, is what he told me. And I think during COVID there wasn't an IAPA, so
there wasn't.
Yeah, we've been there just about every year for
that's incredible.
Long time.
Yeah, so what
booth number you're at, or we can post that in the comments. What booth number you're at?
I'm not sure what the booth number is.
That's right. We can put it in the comments.
We're right at the crossroads of the two main aisles.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Same place as we usually are.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. Drew, Rich, thanks for coming on, and I hope to have you back on some other time.
Thank you, David.
Thank you so much.
Really appreciate it.
And